This is Boston College Library's Information Literacy for the Historian. Today we are going to be talking about how to find maps with an emphasis on modeling a couple of different techniques for finding those worldviews from the past. To actually get started searching for maps, you usually need to have some sort of project. Today we're going to go ahead and use the example of looking for world maps between the 16th and 20th century with the idea that we'd be comparing the different political views encapsulated within those world maps. Now, to get started for a project spanning the 16th to the 20th century, you could jump under modern and look specifically for collections associated with different areas of the globe. If I was doing an ancient or medieval project, I would jump under pre-modern and possibly look for maps recommended there. Today, though, we're going to go under Objects and look for historical maps. On a page like this, you're going to get a brief discussion of what's here, some examples of things you can find, and then you're going to get, as a first selection of links, recommendations for different places that you could look. For us, we're looking for, as mentioned, the 16th to the 20th century, so you're going to look for some of those temporal notations at what different collections cover. These first broad historical map collections are recommended, but they do all have their specific limitations as well. To start our exploration, we're going to go down the recommended list and actually look at the World Digital Library. One of the benefits of starting with something like the World Digital Library is because it's a curated collection. It's smaller, but each of the items is very carefully chosen. This is drawing from around the world as opposed to having an excellent collection of world maps but being based in the United States or Europe. So I'm going to go ahead and type in world maps. It's going to autofill. Here, one of the first things to note is that we have about 880 results in English. We could mess with some options in the upper right-hand corner to change our language or to ensure that we had an exact match for this phrase as opposed to the words being searched separately. We're going to go ahead and leave that. What we're going to explore instead is this button on the upper left-hand side of the window, Narrow Results. These are filters down the left-hand side of the screen, and you'll see this is a common feature in many digital databases, particularly for maps. Here we can limit by place, time period, topic, as well as other issues like books, language, subject, and contributing institutions. Here, because we're looking for maps from the 15th to the 20th century, so from 1500 to 2000, I'm going to go ahead and limit my date range. You'll notice that it actually starts with 8000 BC to 499, which gives us a sense of some of what was going on before our period of exploration. And we start getting some of those earlier world maps. For example, this one here is a 15th century reproduction of an ancient Greek map that significantly influenced and contributed to later map productions. With this particular map, it might not be within our period, but it helps us understand what is unique or different about our period. So we might consider pulling that map. We still need, however, to actually look for maps within our date range. So we cleared our filters, go back to Narrow Results, and go ahead and look at that initial phase of our time period. Here we can explore multiple different kinds of maps from Korea, from China, and onward. We're going to go ahead and look at the complete world map, either from the 16th or 17th century. And you'll notice relatively fast that the map is significantly different from what you would be used to. That's part of what's so exciting about exploring different worldviews from around the world, is trying to get that grasp of how other people are trying to conceptualize the globe. So here we have one map for a background, one map directly from our period. We could do our entire research project based on the maps found within this collection. There are a lot of other things out there for us to explore. Going back then to our broad digital historical map collections, we're going to explore the David Rumsey map collection. Going into the David Rumsey collection, you're going to start getting a sense, some of the basic breakdown of how digital map collections are organized. First of all, you usually have the basic map collection with some examples, once again. But what you're also going to get are things like the ability to browse all or category pages that'll take you to specific sub-collections. So here we're going to browse alphabetically. Since we're looking for world maps, we want to go to world. We have over 3,000 world maps, and they cover the entire extent of what's going on. You'll see here, down the left-hand side, we have what are referred to as filters to refine your search. And what you can do there is limit by things of where the focus is, where something's published, as well as when it's published, or if you knew your cartographer. We're actually going to go under advanced search. You're going to want to limit a couple of your fields, including your world area, in this case to world, but you could put in Latin America, Middle East, you could of course do Levant or otherwise, and then you're also going to limit your date. Your date generally can include reprints of earlier maps, or with your publication date, that's going to say the map itself had to have been created in my period and not created later of an earlier map. So I'm going to put in 1500 to 1600 as some of the scope of my initial project and hit search. I love maps. So here, for example, we have a selection of maps, including one that I have long loved, which is by, over here, your cartographer, Urbano Monte, which indicates that maybe this map is Italian, and in this case it is. Now take a look at this map. We can tell a lot from a map about what is going on in world history at a given moment. Here, for example, we have a clear coast-to-coast depiction of the Americas, and we actually get a North Pole view of the world, which tells you a lot about where we are in world history and how people are connecting with one another. One of the things I like about the David Rumsey map collection is that almost all of their maps are available for you to fully download in whatever capacity you want. But you can also export your map in small thumbnails, large or otherwise, and use it, but do accredit it using Chicago citations. We're going to look at the Pere Castaneda library map collection, in part because it's excellent and in part because it has a very different interface. The Pere Castaneda library map collection is run out of the University of Texas Libraries, and it's a fantastic collection, but the interface is relatively basic. Here, though, it follows a lot of standard guidelines for how to organize things, and you get essentially filters on the left. Those are predominantly contemporary maps, but you can also then go under historical. Under the historical maps, you'll notice that you have them divided by different areas of the world, as well as samples going down the column. Here, we're going to look specifically at the world. This collection focuses mostly on the 19th and 20th centuries, and so we're not surprised then to see predominantly 20th century maps going down here. We do then have 20th century reprints of older maps like the 16th century map. What we also then have, and things like colonial possessions and commercial highways from 1910. With a map like this, you lose any veneer of suggestion that this doesn't have a political connotation and ramification. If you go down further to further digital map collections, you'll find additional sources for maps from around the world that are then focused on specific areas or smaller collections than what we were looking at in those broad digital collections. Congratulations, we found 3 maps. We could go through a lot of these other collections and find even more maps, but we're going to stop there. Let us know if you have any questions or concerns.